Introduction to Attitudes, Part 1. The first question we have to ask in this class is, what exactly is an attitude? Well, before we answer that question, we need to recognize that social psychology vocabulary can often be very tricky. Sometimes the words we say on a day-to-day basis don't mean the same thing when social psychologists refer to them. For example, the term affect, or as we pronounce it in social psychology, affect. When you pronounce it affect, it means to cause a change in something, such as this affects that. Whereas in psych, we use it to refer to our subjective feelings. It's part of our emotions. It's affect. If you're in a good mood, you're having positive affect. Aggression. On a day-to-day basis, aggression could mean an attack on somebody else. It could also mean dominating or simply being assertive, such as in a sports game when you chant, "Be aggressive." It's not the same thing we mean in psychology. In social psychology, we define aggression as the intention to harm another who would otherwise be motivated to avoid that harm. When you're shouting, "Be aggressive," you don't mean hurt the other team, you mean dominate the other team. People love to use the word antisocial today. It's in our television advertisements. It's all over the place. And we use it to mean not being social. Except that's not what it means. It means to violate the rights and norms of others. To steal is antisocial, not to stay at home all night. Another one, jealous. We might use the term jealous to mean I want something that you have. I'm jealous of your ice cream cone. I'm jealous of your car. I'm jealous of your new job. But what we mean is envious. In psychology, jealous means I'm afraid I'm losing a relationship I'm already in. I'm jealous because my husband is spending time with other people, and I'm afraid I'm going to lose him. Apply it to our word attitude, a term we use all the time, probably on a day-to-day basis for a lot of us. But you ever thought about what exactly does it mean? A lot of the times in our day-to-day life, we use attitude to mean an outlook, such as optimism or pessimism. We might use the phrase, "She has a great attitude on life." What we mean is she has a great outlook on life. We can say this on the flip side. They have a bad attitude, or they're pessimistic about it. The way that we use the term attitude is belligerent, or to be rude, to be sassy, such as, "Don't give me that attitude," when you roll your eyes or storm off. Teenagers are said to have a lot of attitude. That's not what we mean either. Psychology define it? Psychology defines attitude as simply the positive or negative evaluation of some object. In other words, do you like it or dislike it? There are a ton. Do you have an attitude about Coca-Cola? In other words, do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you prefer Pepsi? Do you prefer water? Do you prefer tea? Do you like the Dallas Cowboys? Or do you really dislike the Dallas Cowboys? How about the Green Bay Packers? How about the Miami Dolphins? Do you like peace and quiet? A more abstract idea. Do you like adventure? Do you like excitement? Do you like school? Here you are, taking a class. Do you like this class? Do you like school in general? Do you like learning? What are the things you like? What are the things you don't like? This course, The Psychology of Attitudes and Attitude Change, as the name of your textbook is, suggests there are a number of different things that we are going to explore beyond just understanding what is an attitude. We have to go beyond the idea that it is more than just indicating liking or disliking. But what else makes up our attitudes? Not all of our attitudes are the same. We don't like everything the same way. We don't dislike everything the same way. We can also ask, are we always aware of our attitudes? This brings up a curious question that we'll talk about more in this unit when we look at different ways of measuring attitudes. But can you always verbalize what your attitudes are? What if you're holding different types of attitudes about the same thing? How do you feel about exercise? Do you like it or do you dislike it? Does your like for chocolate match your like for exercise? Does it match your like for the person that you are in a relationship with? What about those attitudes where we might say we like it or dislike it, but then we don't ever act the same way? We might say we don't like something, but then we find ourselves selecting that. I don't like those kind of people, but yet I still hang out with them. What's going on? How do we form our attitudes? Where do they come from? What makes me like something or dislike something? How do our attitudes influence our behaviors? This, of course, is the crux of all social psychological questions. How do our social environments influence our thoughts and feelings, and in turn, how can we explain our behaviors? Attitudes play a predominant role in the study of social psychology to explain our behaviors. And more importantly, if our attitudes do influence our behaviors, can I change my attitudes to change my behavior? Or even more specifically, can I change someone else's attitude as a way to influence their behavior? That's where we get to the persuasion part of the course title, Attitudes and Persuasion. Well, let's start with just one. Of course, we'll talk about this a lot more in depth when we get to Chapter 2. What makes up attitudes beyond simply liking and disliking? 3 key vocab terms to kind of describe how we look at our attitudes. Not what's going on, not behind the scenes, but just if I have to describe how much I like chocolate, there are different things I have to consider. The first is the one we're already talking about, attitude valence. Now let's get into a little vocabulary. Again, there is a difference between valence and valence. This is not necessarily that psychology defines it all that differently, it's just recognizing it's a different word. A valence is a window covering. However, is the affect. There's affect again, not affect. The affect, the emotional component associated with an object. Or in other words, the general attractiveness or aversiveness of something. What is that positive or negative? Defined attitudes. It's the positivity. We have a positive or negative evaluation. The positivity or negativity would be the valence. But we can also ask about attitude strength. How much do you like it? How much do you dislike it? Let's take snow for example. Do you dislike snow, or are you somebody who's like, I hate snow, I don't like snow? How much do you dislike it? Do you just find it an inconvenience, but yet you still live in a snowy region? Or do you hate snow with a blinding passion? And are actually looking forward to global warming, so there may be no more snow ever again. How about the flip side? Let's say you like snow. I like snow. Do you like snow enough that you enjoy having it part-time of the year? You think it's pretty? Or do you love snow so much you want to go live in Alaska and learn how to live in igloos? How much? So when we talk about attitude strength, intensity of that evaluation. The last component is the attitude object, the thing we like or dislike. Obvious this is in how we talk about the positivity or negativity of an evaluation, but it's important to note what things we can have attitudes about. Of course, the answer is pretty much everything. We can have attitudes about nouns, people, places, things. We can have attitudes about certain verbs, maybe not the word itself, although you could have an attitude about a particular word. But for instance, do you like running? Actions. Do you like reading? In terms of the word itself, I have an attitude about a preference for how I spell certain words, such as British spellings versus American spellings. Abstract ideas. We don't have to have things that we can visualize to like or dislike, but we can have all sorts of abstract ideas. Do you like chaos? Or do you dislike chaos and you want everything to be orderly? Anything that can be evaluated for liking or disliking. These are the 3 main components that we talk about when we're trying to describe how we feel towards a given object. We need the object, we need the positivity or negativity of our evaluation, and then there's also some indication of intensity. The words we use, I kind of like it versus I love it, and I don't care for it versus I hate it, are reflections of this intensity, along with the positivity, negativity, and the it being our attitude object. break and just check for understanding and make sure we're all on the same page before we head into the next section to look at how psychologists measure attitudes.